All right, we got an interesting video here. A conservative strategist is going to call out Mark Carney for his so-called pipeline deal that's going to be getting done with Alberta. Now, this guy's name is Sebastian Skamsky, and he says, you got to hand it to Mark Carney. He's great at staging an announcement. Unfortunately for Canadians, the MOU, the deal, is nothing more than theater. The only thing preventing a pipeline are him and his disastrous liberal policies. So we're going to have a look at this, then we'll talk about it. But before we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help grow the channel. And I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So without further ado, let's have a look, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, Mike, forgive me for not sharing the enthusiasm.
Sorry.
Mike, forgive me for not sharing the enthusiasm for this theater production that the panel has, and that the liberal-friendly media has been feeding to Canadian.
And by the way, that's Sharon Cower, or Coor, however you say her name. She is one of the biggest liberal shills ever, so it's hilarious that they're sitting together. But as you're listening to this guy, also watch her face, because that's going to give you some entertainment right off the bat.
And especially Carney's boomer base. Here's the reality of what's happening tomorrow. Prime Minister Carney is going to put on a fantastic and wonderful show. He's going to, once again, sign a piece of paper that is otherwise, by his own assertion, rather meaningless. Just yesterday, Prime Minister Carney said that this MOU will create the necessary but not sufficient conditions for a pipeline. So what is the whole point of going through this process? I think it's, once again, Prime Minister Carney putting on an incredible show for Canadians on every side of the spectrum to reveal himself to be something that he is not, which is somebody who can actually get things built and get our resources to market. As long as Conservatives continue to point this out, and as long as Prime Minister Carney prevents himself from building a pipeline, which under the British North America Act, I know this is kind of boring, Section 92 permits him to build this, even despite Premier Eby's objections. Until he actually does that, I think Conservatives are in solid shape and will continue to point out this hypocrisy.
And that's the thing, right? He's got this, Mark Carney has this plan in play where he goes, hey guys, we're going to try to build a pipeline. David Eby, the NDP leader of the British Columbia provincial government, is of course going to oppose it. And then Mark Carney's going to say, look, I tried, but the NDP, they blocked me. It's David Eby's fault, guys. And as much of a clown as David Eby is, it's not David Eby's fault. Or David Eby, whatever the hell you say his name. It's Mark Carney's fault, because as what's this guy's name again? Sebastian said, Mark Carney can override it. It's up to Mark Carney, but he's going to say, I tried. The NDP blocked me. Therefore, there's nothing I can do. It's all their fault. It's all Trump's fault. Everything that's bad that's happened in this country is Stephen Harper's fault. And it would be Pierre-Poilievre's fault. It's everyone else's fault except his. You ever notice that with liberals? It's always someone else's fault. Justin Trudeau couldn't stop blaming Stephen Harper. It's like, buddy, he's been gone for 10 years. If all of the policies he had in place were bad, you've had time to change things, and everything that sucks has gotten fucking worse. But you'll blame Harper. You'll tell people that Pierre Poilievre would have signed a bad deal with Trump with no evidence of that to be true. Not one bit of evidence. Well, you say Mark Carney is a liar. Yeah, and there's plenty of evidence. Go watch his campaign strategy. Elbows up. If he had ran his campaign the way that he's speaking with, or apparently not speaking with, Donald Trump, he would have got annihilated. If the reporter said to him, hey, when are you going to talk to Donald Trump? And he says, oh, who cares? Oh, I don't have any burning issues to speak with him about right now. He would have got crushed. But he lied. He said that we provide the most semiconductors to the United States. We don't. Not even close. I think we're like 18th. He's a blatant liar. But the problem is, if you lie over and over again, some people, especially the idiots, tend to believe you a lot. And that's what Mark Carney's done here. He's not here to build pipelines. He's supposedly against them, at least in Canada. He'll invest in pipelines in Brazil, interestingly enough. But he doesn't want them here. Why? Because if we release our resource sector, we would be a very, very rich country. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want people to have good paying jobs with great benefits. That would mean money and prosperity for the middle class. The top 2% of wealthy people, or the people that work in like hedge funds companies like Mark Carney has, they control like 98% of the money. You'd think that'd be enough for these greedy bastards, but it's not. They want it all. They don't want to see a dad going to work every day for 8 or 10 hours and coming home to a house that they're on their way to owning, and a wife that is turning that household into a home with a couple of kids, and they have a couple of decent vacations a year. You used to be able to do that on one salary. Now you can't do that off 2 decent salaries. Can't do it. Unless you're going to get into debt. Mark Carney is really good at making announcements. He's really good at lying. And he's not so much of a woke doofus like Justin Trudeau was, so he looks more like he's kind of like a conservative guy. He's not a conservative guy. He is in this for himself to get rich. And then when we finally kick his ass out of here, he's not going to care. He's going to go back to Europe. Remember he says he's basically a European? He's going to go back to Europe with all his money. He doesn't care. And then whoever gets in next, which I'm assuming would be a conservative government. We all know liberals get redos. Like Dalton McGuinty screwed up so bad they had to replace him with Kathleen Wynne, but then the liberals thought, well, okay, the dummy is gone, it's okay to vote liberal again, and then you vote in an even bigger dummy, and then now you have Doug Ford, who's a conservative by name, but he's not really conservative. What's he conserved? Nothing. Right? He hasn't done anything that's good either. But there's a difference between a guy like Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre, who is way more of a conservative. Common sense. And apparently just having a little bit of common sense is enough to get you the label of being a dreaded, evil conservative, even though it's been the liberals who have screwed up everything they get their greasy little hands on.